Regions Business is sponsored by PNC for the achiever in us all. Our region's business. Innovation, transformation, momentum. Improving our communities and driving technologies that will shape our region for generations. The collaboration that brings vitality, prosperity, and life to living. Stay with us for the coming half hour as we examine in depth our region's business. Now, here's your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on our region's business, how to find more efficient computer networks in the clouds. Plus the best in Carolina barbecue right on the road to Pittsburgh International Airport. But first, easy. Over the past decade or so, the internet has revolutionized the way we do business and the way we operate computer networks. In fact, for many businesses, the internet has become their computer network thanks to something called cloud computing. So how do you balance what you do in-house with what you send to the cloud? Michael Stratos is here with some tips. He's CEO of Ideal Integrations Incorporated. Welcome. Good to see you.
You as well.
Okay, so for people who know nothing about cloud computing, what exactly is it?
Well, I think everybody knows the metaphor of cloud. We all think of the cloud as being the internet. So cloud computing is computing across the internet. It's basically shared resources, applications, information that you get from the cloud on demand to any computer or internet-enabled device.
So if you're a homeowner, you're using the internet at home, you're kind of operating in that environment for lots of different things that you do, right? Facebook or almost anything. In the business environment, it's been a little different. You have your servers and maybe in a locked room in your building or whatever. So is that physical manifestation of all this changing?
Yeah, it is. It's a combination of things. It's internal, it's external. We're used to everybody's internet enabled these days, right? Our PDAs, our phones, our home computers. And so you take this concept that it's very easy for home users to reach out and get resources, like you said, Facebook, for Gmail, for all of these things that are basically cloud computing.
Book travel, right, on one of those sites.
Absolutely. So we extend that potential ease of use, deployment, management to the corporate world as well.
Okay. And so does that mean that companies literally migrate everything they have in-house onto some faraway resource or server?
Not necessarily. It really depends on the company, what those needs are. Typically, it's more of a hybrid solution. So you have an internal cloud, a private cloud, and then you may have a public cloud where you reach out and grab resources. A typical example would be something like a Salesforce.com, where you do CRM that is a cloud computing-based application like Salesforce, and then you combine that with your internal applications or your internal cloud where you use word processing, spreadsheets, things of that nature.
Advantages of thinking about going down this path?
There are several advantages, and again, it really depends on the company. There's potential economic advantages. A company that may be more amenable to OPEX versus CAPEX, because it is a OPEX endeavor versus CAPEX. You do avoid a lot of upfront costs, like you said, about buying those servers. You basically remove yourself from that physical layer potentially, or at least for a portion of it, and lean toward the OPEX. Others are the ability to scale on demand, the ability to use resources like a utility. So that if I have a project or some kind of event that is going to be a big bulk of resources that I need, but only for a short period of time. In a traditional environment, I would bulk up my infrastructure, buy servers, buy licensing, all of these things. And if it was a short period of time, when I'm done with that project, I basically have a sunk cost. I have this resources sitting here that I now have no use for.
Taking up square footage, if nothing else, that you're paying a lease payment on, right?
Absolutely. And so there's a lost ROI there. With cloud computing, you can dynamically extend those resources on demand at that time, use it for that period of time, but when that period of time is over, you can basically shut off the light switch and the meter stops running.
As you deal with clients, though, do some struggle with this idea that somehow I'm not going to have the machines in my business, I'm not going to have my own software, I'm not going to maybe have my own data where I can touch it?
Sure. I mean, it's similar to any paradigm shift, right? So we had a paradigm shift of going from mainframe to client server, now potentially to cloud computing. So it's a cultural change, right? So people aren't used to that idea, and people like to have physical access to what is theirs. So yeah, it can be a little bit of a hump, but once you understand how it works and how it works for your company more particular, whether it is a combination of private and public cloud, people are starting to be more amenable to it.
You know, this term cloud computing, cloud is kind of new, but it sounds some of the things you're describing, businesses and others have been doing for some time.
Well, yeah, the core of the cloud is effectively very similar to the things that we're doing now. It's just the concept of how we use those resources and how end users get to those resources that makes it differ a little bit. The other part of that is that term cloud is a buzzword, and you hear it a lot. So you get this term cloud washing, where people are just using that term cloud and attaching it to anything because it is a buzzword and it seems to indicate higher end or newer technology. So we have to be careful about understanding, and part of the reason why I'm here is to understand exactly what cloud computing is and what it means to you.
Sure. So only a few seconds left, but what's an important question to ask when you have that salesperson across the desk and they're trying to pitch you on cloud to make sure you're getting the right thing?
Well, I think the way I look at it is I think cloud computing is something that is for everyone at some level, but it's not necessarily for everything. So when you're going into this realm of cloud computing, it is good to find a trusted advisor, that's somebody that can help guide you through the clouds.
All right. Very good, Mike Stratos. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And when we return, true Carolina barbecue makes its way to our region. We'll tell you where to find it when our region's business returns.